Good morning. Good morning. I'm the Reverend Kelly Clement, and on behalf of First Unitarian Society and Nancy's family, I welcome you here to this sacred and celebratory hour. We are gathered to mourn the death and celebrate the life of Nancy Bishop Miller, wife, mother, daughter, sister, friend, grandmother, artist, lover of life. In the Unitarian Universalist tradition, and the tradition of this congregation where Nancy was a member for many, many years, we begin our ceremony by lighting the chalice. Many Sunday mornings we would see Tui Rasmussen and Mary Wabel arrive alongside Nancy. This was the carpool of joy. Tui and Mary, will you come and kindle the flame for us? These are the words of Albert Schweitzer. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us. Nancy heard these words at another memorial service that I led and said specifically, I would like to have those words at my celebration. You know, she was nothing if not a clear communicator and director of what she wanted. What helps when you are living with loss, grief, and great change? The Reverend Kate Tucker, Minister Emerita of First Universalist Church, answers this way. It helps to expect that you will be surprised. No one exactly like you has ever experienced a loss just like yours. Your inner clock, your inner landscape, your intimate story is yours and no one else's. It helps to understand that this will take you on an unpredictable journey and that this is a thing that happens in your body, not just in your soul. It helps to know that your feelings can be complex and multiple. Sorrow and relief, love and anger, despair and hope can live together and yo-yo in astonishing ways. It helps when you can welcome all these feelings and show hospitality. Ask them all to tea. It helps to give sorrow words, to tell your heart to those who know how to listen and love you, the ones who don't mind at all when you repeat yourself over and over and over again. It helps to recognize that though your loved one dies, your relationship does not. It changes, it flows, it grows, it distills, it lives. It helps to remember that there are things you will never know, never, ever figure out or reason your way to. You will never know what it was like for Nancy to live her life from the inside. This is a holy secret and a sacred mystery. It helps to remember that beauty does not die. And it helps to know that when grief comes, it comes as a teacher. It shows us what we fear and what we love, what we hold true. It tells us, if we listen, 100 ways to honor our loved one. Grief teaches us how we wish to live our days. We stand before the mystery of life and death with hearts raw and knees weak, and with profound gratitude that we had the great good fortune to know this inimitable woman. So let us tell Nancy's story today and in the days and years to come, that we may know and be inspired by what is possible in a life so well and fully lived. Nancy Stewart Bishop was born December 2nd, 1927, in Rochester, Minnesota, the eldest child of Harold and Dorothy Crew Bishop. Brother John arrived 4 years later. It was a strict home of high expectation and a love of music. The family moved to the Twin Cities, and Nancy graduated from Marshall High School in 1945, beginning her life as a young adult just as World War II was coming to an end, and the privations of that decade seemed to be over. She went to Bennington College in Vermont for a year, and then returned to Minnesota and worked secretarial jobs, where she began to hone her writing and editing skills. When she worked at the Walker Art Center, just in view here, she met a young graduate student in political science and a fellow participant in the Art Collectors Club, Robert Miller. They married in 1949 and again in 1951, and those were lean and challenging years. But the family found its feet. Mari was born in 1962 and Eliza in 1964. Robert was at one time the development director at the Guthrie Theater when it was housed here also. Eliza talks about growing up around the halls of the Walker and the Guthrie. And the family house at 44th and DuPont had Guthrie cast-offs in the backyard, fallen temple pillars, and places for imaginative play. There was both formality and frugality there, but when they went to the family cabin on Willow River near Hudson, Wisconsin, that's where Nancy felt freer, more relaxed. Nancy was an artist from childhood, and she continued painting throughout her life. Eliza and Mari remember her drawing on school lunch bags, the characters from the Masterpiece Theater episode they'd watched the night before. Some of Nancy's many, many paintings are on view in the gallery outside this room, so please be sure and see those. When the girls left home, Nancy and Robert were empty nesters, and she took a watercolor painting trip to Oaxaca in Mexico. She loved the light and color of Mexico, and this area became a second home to her. She became fluent in Spanish, and the Millers were as much engaged with the locals as with the expat community. We'll hear some more about that shortly. There, Nancy met Hani Sager, a Swiss-Canadian artist with muscular dystrophy. Miss Sager taught disabled and unhoused street children in Oaxaca to make toys for joy and purpose. Nancy, ever the promoter and storyteller, wrote a book about her in 2008, The Wondrous Toy Workshop. Her writing and editing skills continued to grow throughout her professional life. She worked at Control Data and traveled to Geneva for a conference about sustainability. And she created a self-health care guide for gay men long before it was acceptable to talk about such things. Nancy and Robert joined First Unitarian Society in 1982. Robert died in 1989. Nancy continued to stay involved at FUS as a part of book groups, always a lively discussion participant, and as the editor of our Active Voices team. Nancy had an informed opinion on most things. Her frequent letters to the editor of the Star Tribune were always insightful and right to the point. In some ways, Nancy blossomed after Robert died. Her life became more joyful, colorful, filled with engagement and gratitude. She called herself the Great Appreciator and was known to say that she would get more done if she didn't spend so much time being grateful. She loved talking to people, hand-feeding the red-winged blackbirds in her beloved Loring Park, attending the Guthrie Theater and Minnesota Orchestra, traveling to see Mari in Oregon and Eliza in California, these two daughters of whom she was extraordinarily proud. She told us all how proud she was of you. Taking painting and memoir writing classes and spreading her gratitude and glee like glitter. As her daughter said, she was one of those people who kept getting better and better at living. Nancy was healthy and well until she wasn't. There was a fall on her 95th birthday, or as she said, I didn't fall, I sank. Nancy Miller died on December 22nd, 2022, just 3 weeks after her 95th birthday, surrounded by love. Her body has been cremated, and Mari and Eliza will make future plans for the dispersal of her ashes. Those whom we love and lose are never where they were. They are now with us wherever we are. Let Nancy's legacy to us be her sharp wit, informed opinion, ready smile and laughter, an eagerness to engage with all of life, and a profound gratitude for this life we share. Eliza, will you come and share with us?
Our mom always told us she was immortal, and somehow we believed her. We believed that a calendar filled with painting and memoir writing classes, active voices meetings, plays at the Guthrie, visits to the Minneapolis Institute of Art, treks to the Arboretum, concerts at Orchestra Hall, hours-long lunches with friends in her apartment would keep her with us forever. We believed that her lilting and ready laugh and sharp wit, that shiny chestnut hair, those smooth, knobby, cool hands that were as masterful at capturing the layers of shadows in a watercolor of a Oaxacan fruit stand as they were at knowing when to quickly clutch yours in a moment of poignant connection. We believed that those things would be with us to this day. She never gave us a reason to think otherwise. But here we are, and it all happened too fast. She left us too quickly. I know that Mari and I feel that, and I'm confident that all the rest of you feel that as well. In November, she was here chatting about genealogy with new friends, but then turned the calendar page to December, and she was suddenly in the hospital with COVID, and then home in hospice, and then in Mari's and my arms as she subsided, her preferred term, on December 22nd. It really doesn't make sense. I know. And we are so sad. We are so sad that she is not with us. But with that sadness reflects a sense of true awe at who she was, how she moved in the world, what she illuminated, and admittedly what she disparaged, and the contrail of goodness she left in her wake. She changed people. Our mom, your friend, this woman, Nancy B. Miller, changed people. There was an inescapable joyousness to her. It was next to impossible to evade that magnet. But if somehow a person failed to be drawn in, As she would say, to hell with them. That's true. She didn't have time for that because there was an urgency for seeing the good, the possible, the connective tissue that binds us, no matter one's station in life. Introducing our mom to our friends was always an easy pleasure, as she knew she would be quick to ask compelling questions, not about what a person did, but rather who a person was. Over the years, I took the opportunity to have some of the writers I work with meet my mom at their readings and other events here in Minneapolis. A number of times when my mom visited me in the Bay Area, I arranged for her to join me at San Quentin State Prison and the Restorative Justice Circle I volunteered with for many years. For many people, evaluating someone who holds major writing awards against someone with, say, a life sentence for murder would be a no-brainer. But for my mom, she strode into each acquaintance with openness, curiosity, and a desire to learn who that person is in the moment we have right now. Two of the writers she met are poets Naomi Shihab Nye and Billy Collins, whose poetry speaks to the small marvels of the world around us. The inmate is Darnell Moe Washington, a true Buddha of a man whose even temperament and extraordinary ability to move through the world with accountability and a belief in the possibility of positive change within each of us. After 28 years in prison, Moe was released on March 9th and is already engaged with juveniles in an anti-gang program in Oakland. I asked Naomi, Billy, and Moe if they would record something for today's celebration, and each swiftly accepted the offer. Everyone in this room has their own story about our mom. Each story is different, but each story has at its core the common denominator of time spent in the glow and light of this extraordinary woman. Whether that time is measured in months or decades, any time with her left us feeling lifted by her humor, her wisdom, and her unwavering belief in who we are and who we might become. Our father, Robert Miller, died in 1989, and his memorial was held in this sanctuary. Arnold Walker read the following poem by Robert Frost to honor him. As this welcome spring unfolds before us, Frost's words feel right again. Nothing gold can stay. Nature's first green is gold, her hardest hue to hold. Her early leafs a flower, but only so an hour. Then leaf subsides to leaf, so Eden sank to grief. So dawn goes down today, nothing gold can stay. Thanks.
I knew Nancy through the lucky coincidence of first knowing her daughter, Eliza, initially as one of her agency's clients and then later as a dear friend. It didn't take long to recognize her mother as an irrepressible, spirited, life-loving, sharply smart woman with an uplifting sense of humor and a love of poetry. If this is a celebration of life, there is so much to celebrate about her. Eliza asked me to read this poem that her mother particularly liked. It's titled Questions About Angels. Of all the questions you might want to ask about angels, the only one you ever hear is how many can dance on the head of a pin. No curiosity about how they pass the eternal time besides circling the throne, chanting in Latin, or delivering a crust of bread to a hermit on earth, or guiding a boy and girl across a rickety wooden bridge. Do they fly through God's body and come out singing? Do they swing from the hinges of the spirit world like children saying their names backwards and forwards? Do they sit alone in little gardens, changing colors? What about their sleeping habits, the fabric of their robes, their diet of unfiltered divine light? What goes on inside their luminous heads? Is there a wall these tall presences can look over and see hell? If an angel fell off a cloud, would he leave a hole in a river? And would the hole float along endlessly, filled with the silent letters of every angelic word? If an angel delivered the mail, would he arrive in a blinding rush of wings, or would he just assume the appearance of the regular mailman and whistle up the driveway reading the postcards? No, the medieval theologians controlled this court. The only question you ever hear is about the little dance floor on the head of a pin where halos are meant to converge and drift invisibly. It is designed to make us think in millions, in billions, to make us run out of numbers and collapse into infinity. But perhaps the answer is simply one female angel dancing alone in her stocking feet. A small jazz combo working in the background. She sways like a branch in the wind, her beautiful eyes closed, and the tall, thin bassist leans over to glance at his watch because she has been dancing forever, and now it is very late, even for musicians. I think Nancy liked that best, the last part the best. Thank you for allowing me to contribute to this beautiful occasion. I knew Nancy.
Candy Lund, will you come and share with us, and then Lane and Marion after that?
Hello, everybody. Today I would like to paint a picture of the Nancy that me and my family and I were blessed to know. It's not just a tale of how city meets country, but how world meets country. To do this, I feel I need to paint you a picture of the cabin. Just across the Wisconsin border, at the edge of Hudson, lies a rustic road called Trout Brook. This road is very windy, with tight curves taking you both left and right, leading you away from the busy noises of the city. The houses and cabins seem to be few and far between. The trees of all varieties tower high above the vehicles, creating a canopy above. The undergrowth housing wildlife, flowers, ferns, and new growth. While traveling that rustic, windy road, you find yourself in a valley and approaching a small, narrow bridge. As you slow for the bridge and the bends in the road, you can look out and you can see the clear water and rocks of the willow below. Ahead in the distance, you can see yet another small bridge. Just then, you pull into what seems like a path, but is actually a driveway. It is blocked by a simple chain drawn across between two poles. You look ahead and see what appears to be a path on the other side. After removing the chain rapidly, because the mosquitoes are starting to carry you away, you end up parking on the lawn. You have arrived at the miller's cabin. Ahead of you is a small lofted building on pillars, painted in, well, let's just say it's sage greens, with white trim. As you walk up the steps to the porch, you lay your hand on a rail with a heron or crane painted on it, by Nancy, of course. The steps are surrounded with ferns. As you walk inside the porch, there was a large painting that hung, and when I say large, I'm talking large painting of Nancy and Robert in their younger years. That was always a blessing to see. You would find the typical fly fishing rods, badminton rackets, and other toys, chairs, and signs of summer. You would then proceed into the main cabin. It had an open central room with a fireplace, a living room set up looking outside a big picture window, a small desk where Nancy performed a lot of her daily activities, whether it was reading or writing or her paintings. There was a bed to the left and the right of the window. The kitchen area was surrounded with a cafe-style counter, and all the utensils and all the need-to-know-where-they-are items were all in their place on the pegboard above the sink. Tucked in the far back was the bathroom. It was just big enough for what you needed to do in there, but it was rather small, and I always got a kick out of the sign that hung on the wall. And in Nancy's great passion, it read something to this effect, that we seldom flush for number 1, but we always do for number 2. Or something of the such. Throughout the cabin were trinkets, artifacts, and eccentric things gathered from all over, along with plenty of books on birds. As you walk out the front door, next to the picture window, you walk down a few steps, again surrounded by more ferns. You look out and view a freshly mowed yard edged with cascading willow trees and a babbling, fresh, crystal clear flowing river. As you walk toward the water in the middle of the yard, you pass a daisy patch that we were not allowed to mow over. You would cross a small culvert that allowed for the backwater to come in, and you would stand on a small island in the stream. With all the various, looking back at the cabin, Nancy had quite a few bird feeders that hung from the eaves. The land was alive with wildlife and the stream full of trout and clams. So where does my family fit in? Not sure how it all happened or when it all occurred, but sometime before Eliza, Mari, Dee, Craig, Lori, myself, and possibly even my sister Kelly were born, Nancy and Robert crossed paths with our father Carl. He spent every spring putting the pump in, every summer upkeeping the lawn, and every fall removing the pump, raking the leaves, and securing the cabin for winter. We grew up only living about a mile from the cabin as the crow flies, and in our own little pine forest that seemed like a park. Being so close, our father was able to help when sinks were clogged, leaks occurred, and repairs were needed. From the time we could all walk, we began creating our own memories at the cabin. Sometimes we were out picking up the million sticks the willow trees dropped so our father could mow the lawn. Sometimes we played in the yard, caught frogs or toads, or cooled off in the water. When the Millers were out, we got the extra bonus of playing with the girls and the cousins whose cabin was just across the road. But our biggest joy was having talks with Nancy. In those younger years, Nancy spoiled us with treats, lemonade, and magical warm hugs. She was always appreciative of having things mowed and ready to go. As the Lund clan grew up, our father added more responsibilities. We went from helping pick up sticks and mowing the yard and raking the leaves and learning to take pride in our work, and eventually began mowing the yard and taking care of the pump and any other little thing that Nancy needed along the way. My brother was the longest contributor of this help. While the rest of us moved away, we still had our connections with Nancy. Without really realizing this was our first job, because it really didn't seem like it, being at the cabin gave us time away from home, time to fish, and the extra added bonus of visiting the Millers. Whether it was for, I got my fishing pole and bobber stuck in the tree, can you help me? Can you help me put another one on so my dad doesn't get mad? Which Robert was great at. Or just chatting with Nancy. Whenever the Millers could escape the city life and relax, enjoy the peace and serenity of the family time at the cabin, through the years, the Lunds were always there. We became entwined with the Millers. We all enjoyed the tales of the city life, the plays they attended, retold with eager ears listening, the travels to foreign places, riding exotic animals, biking through villages and countrysides, the winter spent in Mexico, and the family that she created down there. Of course, we always enjoyed the tales of what were the girls up to. We also enjoyed time with the grandkids, both the four-legged and the girls, and it was always just such a joy. Life was not like it is now. There's no quick Google search that shows you the photos and the information. Nancy had a way of sharing her adventures that painted a picture in our minds. The trinkets and artifacts around the cabin sparked many conversations, as well as the gifts she brought back from her adventures to share with us. As she was sharing, we were listening, not only bringing the city to us, country kids, but the world, providing us with encouragement, mentorship, and a friendship that has grown and lasted throughout the years. No matter how much time we had between visits, we always picked up where we left off. Some of us made life-changing career decisions, and her mentorship just meant so much to all of us. As Nancy aged on in the years, she did not like coming to the cabin alone. She began allowing others to use it. Through that, we met the boys and continued to mow the lawn and help with repairs and even re-roofing the cabin. To me, Nancy never seemed more at home with a graceful calmness when she was surrounded by the beauty of nature. While we all know that the day would come when Nancy would no longer be with us, the Lunds are forever grateful that Mari and Eliza reached out to us in December, so we could express our goodbyes. If it only seems fitting to paint her final picture and share part of my goodbye to her. When I close my eyes, I shall always think of us sitting in Trout Brook, between the cabin and the river, by the patch of daisies in the yard. While your adventures appear to be ending here, even greater ones await. Someday we will sit near daisies and the river again, catching up. Till then, know that your words of wisdom, advice throughout the years, have been spot on and greatly appreciated. Through God's grace, so blessed to have our paths cross and to be loved by you through the years, forever loved by the Lunds, till we meet again. She was our greatest appreciation growing up. So today we just want to celebrate what a wonderful impact she had on our lives. So thank you.
Greetings. I'm Lane Ayers, and this is my wife, Marion McNerlin. As Eliza said, Nancy changes people. If we're fortunate, there's one or maybe two or three or four people in our lives who changes the trajectory of our life and changes it for good and changes it for better. Nancy was one of a very few people in our joint life who did that, and Marion will share some of our journey with Nancy now.
Nancy Miller, how we miss her. But because she lived so fully and for so long, a lot of us are sharing in her absence. At the same time, how grateful we are for the long time we had with her and the manner of her passing. To live fully until your 95th birthday, to pass being held in your own bed by your daughters after a short period of time, but not suffering. What more could any of us want? But Lane and I miss her a lot, and many of you do too. We met Nancy through the YMCA International Committee about 40 years ago. Then we got to know Rob. The kids were out of the house at that point, their cabin in Wisconsin, and most importantly for us, their blessed Oaxaca. We took our sons to Oaxaca the first time in 1987 to visit Rob and Nancy, and we all fell in love with it too. We have so many memories, but first I want to start with Mexico. We returned there this last March and had many Nancy moments. You can imagine. Her adorable casita full of color from the local markets. Her deep friendships with Oaxacans and North Americans. We visited friends of hers in a village east of Oaxaca who pointed to Nancy's room in their house up there. Okay, she would often say, "Híjole." Do any of you know what that means? Do you have any idea where that came from? No. She would visit with everyone she met along the way, amazing people with her great Spanish and her warmth. She'd sit in her beloved Llano Park and be mesmerized by the color, the activity, the beauty. Such a lovely place. But she also loved her perfect home in Loring Park. It too was filled with art, hers and others. Many of the paintings in the back hallway hung in her home. She had many Schlotzkis, she called them. Do any of you remember the little Japanese Zen garden with the tiny of sand with the tiny rake and the tiny stones? And the hilarious moving critters that Eliza would send her. In addition, there were often gorgeous flowers from Mari and pictures of daughters, precious granddaughters, and that red-headed great-granddaughter also. And there's now a great-grandson with red hair who joined the family after she left us. White wine and skim milk. If she had those two, she would be okay. Truly. From her home during COVID, she Zoomed art classes, church services from here, active voices. She watched the NewsHour, don't call between 7 and 8, and she also read, a few times, the New York Times on the treadmill. At 94, she made dinner for us and Mary Wabel. She did it seamlessly, but the shrimp and cucumbers were a little over-salted, and Mary's allergic to shrimp. Oh well. She loved to walk in Loring Park and was on a first-name basis with many of the guys who hung out there during the day. She loved feeding critters and always had peanuts in her little front pack that she kept. There was a TV interview with her feeding the squirrels. In the spring and fall, she would stop and look at every leaf and enjoy its magnificent beauty. Need I say it took a long time to walk around the park? Her erudition, wouldn't she love that I used that description of her? In one of the poems in the little booklet, the first word is perfidious, I think. She didn't use big words to impress others. She used big words because that's who she was. She had an amazing vocabulary and the use of words. She learned to say thank you in a number of African languages to thank the Met Mob drivers who took her around after she couldn't drive. At lunch after this, see if you can think of some of her huge words that she loved to use. Lane and I are sad we never got to hear her say, excuse me, I'm 95 for Christ's sake. But we did get to hear her every year from about 85 up say that with great frequency. Finally, Lane and I hope we always have the same outlook on life that she so clearly stated and that Kelly stated, because we heard this very often. Clearly, I would get so much more done each day if I didn't spend so damn much time being grateful. Let's all carry that with us and be grateful for our wonderful friend. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Darnell Washington. Everybody calls me Mo. And I know Elijah from Restorative Justice at San Quentin. One day she brought her mom in to see one of our symposium. She was one of the loveliest ladies I've ever met. And she really touched me. So when Elijah told me that her birthday was coming up, I wanted to surprise her with a portrait, which I'm sure some of you guys have seen. Once I seen that beautiful picture of her with the birds on side of her, I couldn't help but think I have to draw that portrait for her. So I talked to one of my friends and I asked him could he draw the picture, and he said yes, he could. So I told Elijah, look, I got a surprise coming for you, but you can't open it up, just give it to your mom. So she said, okay. And when I looked at that picture, I thought about her feeding the birds with her loving kindness. And I thought about that's exactly what she did when she came to San Quentin. Not only did she feed loving kindness to me, but the rest of the guys. And she truly meant it because she came back a second time. And that let me know that she really cared about us like she cared about those birds. So while we're here today honoring her, I want everybody to remember to have loving kindness towards one another and for those in nature. Thank you.
You can see that portrait just to it's on the far wall down here as you exit this room. Chuck, will you come and share with us?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chuck Dahlmeyer. My peers and I had the pleasure of seeing Nancy multiple times throughout the week for her food needs. I'm a grocer. It was truly a blessing to see Nancy come into the store and have a brief, maybe a brief interaction or a long interaction. It was always a pleasure to see Nancy. And so many wonderful stories being shared here today that are very meaningful and obviously deep-rooted in how we felt about Nancy. I can specifically recall a very challenging time in the city in which helicopters were overhead, smoke in the air, sirens everywhere, and I walked by the front of the store and I glanced outside and there was Nancy. And I believe she was sitting in this denim skirt that was in right here on the cover. And she was sitting there. And I walked out, and I joined her, and she said, "Come and sit next to me." And I thought to myself, kind of looking around, like there's all this chaos going around, and Nancy's just sitting on the bench outside of the grocery store. And she looks to me and she says, "Aren't the flowers beautiful?" And I paused and I said, "The flowers?" And she says, "Yes, the flowers are beautiful." Just tuning out everything that was going on around us at the moment. And that added a level of comfort to my day and my peers within the store. Wonderful Nancy, that's what I will refer to Nancy as. What a wonderful, wonderful woman. When we're on our journey in life, we have many experiences that shape and mold who we are, and how we proceed on that journey is up to us. On the journey of life, we often reflect on those who had a profound impact on us. By the looks of all you wonderful people here today, Nancy had an impact on each and every one of us in one way or another. Through the countless visits to the grocery store, Nancy always brought her A game. And I would say that she had an A game each and every day she came to the store. Nancy, through listening, seemed to gain understanding. Through observing, seek to gain insight. Through words, that if we listen closely, we ourselves gained something that we could share with others. Nancy had a gift of showing up at the store at the right time, just in time to be a day brightener. Nancy had a gift, and that gift was to make you feel valued, appreciated, and heard. Wonderful Nancy, what a gift to all of us, and in my opinion, we need more Nancy in the world. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Naomi Shihab Nye, and I'm speaking to you from San Antonio, Texas, about the wonderful Nancy Miller. I loved Nancy. I cherish her daughters. I think she was a beacon, a shining star of verve, enthusiasm, positivism, energy, joy. I will never forget the beauty of her dwelling, her face, her smile, her gait when she walked through the very chilly, to me, streets of her city. I was so taken by her spirit, and I would just like to celebrate her, share my love with all of her family and friends, and read one poem by my good friend Coleman Barks from his book, Hummingbird Sleep. Nancy was like a hummingbird, flitting around the city and painting and going to the park and talking to new friends. She was a model of happy humanity, how we could be. Support, encouragement. Thank you, Nancy. I love you. I love you all. From Coleman's Hummingbird Sleep, a poem called Darling for Nancy Miller. I am beautiful. Do you love me? You may kiss my neck if you want to. How could you not want to? But remember, I am tricky, most impossible to follow, and will not be here much longer. While you have the chance then to talk and be inside my presence, you should try to be more aware how quickly all this slides away, and so act with some dispatch. Live deep within your own beauty as you repeat after me, I am beautiful. Do you love me? The poem, at this point, you know, might loop into itself and start again, like Pete and repeat sitting on a fence, but no. Nobody falls off. It goes instead, I am beautiful. Do you love me? Of course you do. I love you too. Let's take a walk.
A joy to have all these wise words and good stories. We are going to sing now together a song that's familiar in this congregation, Blue Boat Home by the great Peter Mayer. And we're singing to a slightly different rhythm. So Mike is going to lead us. I'm going to lead the singing. You may stand if you wish. It's number 1064 in the Teal songbook in front of you, but the lyrics will show up here. So we'll follow along, and we'll start together and we'll end together, and then it'll be fine. Please.
Go below me, I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry seas, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we in the pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hear the great winds urging me on. Breathe me in and see before me, sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat.
Thank you. Please be seated. Thank you, Mike. After the service, in a few moments, as we're ending, we'll have a photo montage. And after this, please join Eliza and Mari and other family and neighbors downstairs for a reception where we'll tell more stories and let her great enthusiasm for life be ours. One more memory as we extinguish our chalice. As you've heard, Nancy was a major player in our advocacy group, the Active Voices. Most weeks for the past 7 years, this team has come together to suss out the most important issues of our day. They create messages for our congregants and others to send on postcards, advocating our humanist values to elected officials. We are so grateful for your good work. Nancy was our editor, and she taught us all to work for brevity and impact, and not to rely on exclamation points to get our point across. Active Voices, will you please come up just to the floor here and extinguish our chalice? Nancy especially loved these brief words of the Buddha. Learn to let go. That is the key to happiness. Thank you. Jacob, we started, but we're going to do something different. I've left out Mari's part. I'm so sorry. Please, Mari and Eliza.
Nothing gold can stay. Nancy Miller, our mother, your grandmother, your friend, your important person in whatever capacity, has left us. But her energy, her passion, her eye, her ear, her wit, and most of all, her heart stay with us. Thank you all so much for being here today. May Nancy's spirit remain vibrantly alive in each of you.
Thank you.
Namaste.